Hello and welcome, stargazers. This is APM, your intrepid star guide, back with another episode of the Outlaw Astrology podcast, in which we're talking about the Golden Dawn. So this is another installment in the Beyond the Golden Dawn series, where we question inherited systems and reclaim our interpretive authority and build tarot astrology correspondences that honor both tradition and lived experience. This is episode 159, and we're going to be introducing the focus, which is the Devil, the Tower, and the Star, and these are the three cards of crisis, liberation, and renewal. And so, examining Golden Dawn assignments, Capricorn, Mars, and Aquarius, etc., exploring why these might be the most urgent cards to reimagine, and creating correspondences that reflect contemporary understanding of power, collapse, and hope. Before we get there, a little bit of housekeeping. First thing is that the series assumes familiarity with Golden Dawn basics and invites you to become an intellectual outlaw mystic, someone who honors lineage whilst refusing to be bound by it. Also, you can find us on Pinterest, Instagram. The podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, but you can find it on your favorite podcast player if you're willing to have a look. And there's also the Daily Stargazer podcast and newsletter, which are private. There is a free and paid version, and I post about once or twice per month for free, and then there's the paid version where everything, which is over 500 posts, 80 podcast episodes and counting. So there's a lot of content for a low price. Currently, a warning, the price on the newsletter is going to double. So if you're interested, get in at the lowest price, which is currently now. And thank you very much for listening. You can find those links in the show notes. And now, onward. Alrighty, let's start this game off. We're going to start with the Devil, and usually associated. So, the Golden Dawn assessment is the Devil equals Capricorn. That's ambition, material mastery, structural power, earthbound limitation, and societal control. So, we can acknowledge the resonance. Capricorn does capture the Devil's relationship to the worldly power, to hierarchy, to the cage of material success, and the shadow side of achievement. But let's complicate it. Is the Devil truly about Capricornian ambition, or is this card more fundamentally about denial, repression, suppression, the refusal to face our own desires? Does Capricorn's association with mastery miss the Devil's essence, which is bondage through unconsciousness? Let's explore alternatives. So, first up, we got Pluto, shadow work, compulsion, the underworld of the psyche, transformational through confronting what we've buried. Yeah? Next, we've got Black Moon Lilith, which is not a planet, it is a point. And I have an episode or two based on this particular material, which you can search for. Black Moon Lilith is the apogee, the lunar apogee, meaning the distance in the moon's orbit around the Earth. The furthest point would be called an apogee, and that is Black Moon Lilith. That is the demonized feminine, the sexual servanty, what societies labels as demonic or evil. Okay? Saturn in its malefic dignity. So, the chains we inherit, karmic patterns, and ancestral bondage. Scorpio is another suggestion. Obsession, taboo, the erotic as spiritual crises. Now, my own choice is Cancer, and here's why I say it, because we are often taught, at least I have been taught, I'm a person who has deep emotional feeling, but that feeling function in depth psychology is not how I operate in the world naturally. And so for me, the Cancer card is about emotional intelligence. It's about intuition. It's about being present with your emotions and allowing them to have more of a say. And for me, the Cancer card, Cancer as assignment to this card, speaks to something very deep in my life. The feeling function is that group harmony thing, the people-pleasing, the fawning parts. That's very Cancerian in my opinion, in addition to nurturing. And so nurturing, what you are handed down ancestrally, maternally, or even paternally, but maternally, can be healthy, vital, abundant, generative, or it can saddle you with a load of crippling emotional challenges that you're going to have to spend time healing from or learning to adapt to or adapt over or with in order to make it through the world. The emotional realm is a very sticky realm. It's rather like the mental realm, and they have that in common. They're both nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And so your emotions can bind you, because emotion with thought, depending on the emotion, it can either free you or bind you. And so this is why, for me, Cancer is the appropriate choice for this card. Now, does that mean that everybody should use Cancer, the sign of Cancer, for this card? No, it does not. Merely that is my choice. I have offered up choices here, not so that these are definitive. These are suggestions meant to inspire you to get thinking on, when you look at that card, what sign do you think of? What planet do you think of? Do you think of that at all? Now, I'm an astrologer, so my first thought is always to apply astrology to most things that I see, because astrology for me helps me make meaning of a lot of what is chaos. And emotions can be chaotic. No one in this world that I've met yet is great with emotion, great with integrating emotions, great with sitting with them, great with seeing them as raw information meant to be feedback, meant to be something that we act on. It's meant, like that. Most of us don't have that as training because the people that raised us didn't have it either. Okay, so hence the Cancer, the nurturance, nurture and nature. It may not, there is a nature or nurture will out is something that they say back home in the UK quite often, but quite frankly, sometimes it don't out as cleanly or as neatly as we would like it to. So this is why, for me, the emotion, the card, the sign of emotion and nurturing and nurturance and all that is a sign of the Devil card. Okay? But you are free, absolutely, to look at other planets, signs, etc., to make those choices. So, I'm going to encourage personal exploration on this. When have you felt bound by the devil? Was it a Capricornian overwork ambition? Was it something more deeper, more plutonic, something more unconscious, a compulsion, perhaps? Shadow material demanding integration? Was it sometimes your feelings leading you astray to the point that you had to put a buffer in to calm yourself before you take action, because when you were happy, when you were sad, you took action. It didn't always lead to good places, which is my experience. Okay? So those are some of the questions you can ask in your journey on trying to sort out what the cards mean to you, because the whole purpose here, we honor the lineage, we honor the history, but we also understand that we all have very different nervous systems, very different native operating systems, and psychological and psyche architecture, which is from depth psychology, these terms you're hearing. And so, because of that and our lived experiences, we're going to see different things in the cards, and those things are real and true and authentic and valid to us. They are not universal to anyone else, and that is fine. But I think we need to start with us first and then work our way out, yeah? So, let's move on to the Tower card, which is Mars, or the truth that cannot be contained. Okay, so let's look at the Golden Dawn assignment or assessment of this, and here it is. Tower, equals Mars. That's destruction, violence, sudden rupture, war, the cutting away of illusion. Interesting. So, let's affirm Mars's power. The Tower is martial crises, the lightning strike, the explosion of accumulated tension like an earthquake or a volcanic eruption. Mars does capture the violent, the eruptive energy of the card, partially. But let's push further. Is the Tower merely about destruction, or is this card about revelation? The moment when lies, false structures, and collective delusions can no longer hold. Does Mars miss the Tower's function as truth teller, system destroyer, reality check, wake up call? Yeah? So, let's explore some alternatives here, okay? So, Uranus, sudden awakening, evolutionary change or charge, the breaking of containers, chaos as catalyst for evolution. How about Pluto? Death of the old self, unavoidable transformation and destruction that precedes birth. Or Neptune, dissolving the Mars's striking. So Neptune dissolves, then Mars strikes. So Neptune could be a choice here as well. It's a combination of illusion falling away and the Tower crashing down. Or the North Node, which is a point, not a planet, and which is North Node is the nodes of the moon, and all planets have nodes, by the way. And so the North Node, fate, destiny, the unavoidable reckoning that redirects our path. My choice is Mercury. Because what I'm thinking is this card is about revelation. It is the moment when lies, deception, false structures, and collective delusions no longer hold. I feel that Mars misses the Tower's function as truth teller, system destroyer, reality checker, the wake-up call. I feel that Mars is, yes, it can be violent, but I feel that Mars just misses the mark entirely for how I view the world and move through it, which is why I made a completely different choice with Mercury. And so, we have also a political dimension to the card. So, the Tower is also perhaps the most important card for currently, because we're in an era of collapsing systems, climate crises, failing institutions, failing institutions, collective awakening, and also updating correspondences right here can help us read our historical moment with more precision and clarity. Okay, so that is the dimension of the political we put upon it. So let's invite a little bit of experimentation into this. Try reading the Tower as Uranian revolution rather than martial destruction for at least one lunar cycle. So does it shift one's interpretation from crises from punishment to necessary evolution? You may also do this with the Devil card as well. That would be the moment to start asking the questions. Does this feel right to you? And then you embody that wisdom by looking to see, does it feel right? Because it can't just think it right, it must also feel right in your body somewhere. Where in your body does it feel right? When you're trying to sort out, okay, this is the right choice for me, do you feel that in your body when you think of Capricorn as the devil or etc.? The same thing in the Tower. Do you feel Mars as right, or do you need to keep looking? If it feels off, that means you have to keep looking. You have to continue to search, which is not a problem. I consider searching and questioning necessary and useful to cracking us open. So, next we're going to move on to the star card, and that is Aquarius, or the vision that guides us through collapse. Okay, so here's the Golden Dawn assignment. The star equals Aquarius. That's hope, future vision, humanitarian ideals, the collective good, innovation, detachment. So let's acknowledge the beauty. Aquarius does capture the star's quality of visionary hope, the guiding light that appears after the tower's destruction, the faith in a better future for the collective. So let's complicate things a bit here. Is the star's hope truly Aquarian, cool, detached, intellectualized, or is this card about something more embodied, more immediate, more about the return of faith after despair? Let's explore some alternatives, shall we? So, Neptune, spiritual renewal, divine grace, mystical healing, the waters of life. How about Venus, beauty as medicine, love as the antidote to trauma, the return of pleasure after pain. The Moon, hope as cyclical return, the promise that darkness will end, the renewal through natural rhythm. Or Jupiter, faith, expansion after contraction, the benevolent force that restores meaning. Now my choice is air, the element, which is archetypal. I always find that, no, I remember what it is. I started out with air archetypal and then I went to Leo because I feel there's a little light that never goes out in Leo. That's the energy. It's a fire sign. It is fixed. It is authentic. And after the tower, the hope, the belief that you can be seen and heard as an authentic self, the hope that you can move forward from that brutal restructuring mentally into a place of clarity, a future of clarity, a future of authenticity, a future of illumination, a future where, as you can see on the card, of outpouring of emotion. Play as it can be the healer here. So play as medicine, authenticity as antidote to trauma, a hope, an optimism built from a more embodied place. Leo is a personal sign, not a transpersonal one, and it's ruled by the sun. And so there is play, illumination, creativity, authenticity. It is seeing, as I said, play as a potential healer, an answer to trauma, and the hope that it can be clarifying, it can be illuminating. And this is why I chose Leo as opposed to Aquarius, because I want this energy to be more enthusiastic. And Aquarius is a little cool for this energy here for me, so hence that was my choice. But what's yours? And so let's step into the shadow just a bit. And can hope be Aquarian and still be tender? Yeah, I have a question about that. It's not that Aquarius energy can't be tender. It's just that it just doesn't feel right for me. Does assigning Aquarius to the star risk meaning that hope is, or making hope too abstract, too future-oriented when we need hope now, in our bodies, in our communities, right now? I feel that Leo is present, enthusiastic, authentic, playful, creative energy, and I need that now, not in the future, not an idealized utopian egalitarian future, which is very human-based and humanitarian. I can't wait that long. I need it now. And so I feel Aquarius is a bit too abstract. However, what are your thoughts on that? Ask yourself that. So let's look at some personal exploration here. When you've experienced star moments, hope after crises, did it feel Aquarian and visionary, or did it feel more Neptunian, dissolving into grace, Venusian, beauty as balm, lunar, trust in natural cycles? Did it feel more Leo, more enthusiastic, more hopeful, starting now? Because hope is in the moment, not in the future, not what I think the future is going to give me. I feel hope right now. Okay? And so let's step into reading, how we might read. So this is reading the sequence. This is bondage through collapse to renewal. Okay, so this is the narrative arc from the devil all the way to the star card. So the devil is unconscious bondage. Then we move to the tower, necessary destruction. Then it moves to the star, restoration of hope. And this sequence maps the initiatory crises that forces evolution. So, let's look at the different correspondences that can shift the story. If we do the devil as Pluto, plus the tower as Uranus, plus the star as Neptune, we get a psycho-spiritual journey through shadow integration, evolutionary awakening, and mystical renewal. Now let's compare that to the devil as Capricorn. So, devil as Capricorn, tower as Mars, star as Aquarius. We get a social, political narrative about material bondage, violent rupture, and future-oriented hope. So the thing is that neither are wrong. None of these stories are wrong. It's just a question of preference. The question is which correspondence serves the reading, the querent, which might be you or someone else, and the moment. Outlaw mystics have multiple systems in their toolkit and choose consciously. So you don't necessarily have to choose a system and never use the original again. You're behaving more like a chaos magician in that in the moment, this is what is necessary and needed, and so we use that in the moment, and we may return to it in the future or put it aside and look at something else entirely and then later on. Okay, so you're not stuck with a choice. You're merely making a choice that most aligns with where you happen to be right now, with the understanding that that could change tomorrow, a week, 3 months, for the next lunar cycle, etc. Okay, so when we're looking at that, that's the narrative arc, which is really juicy, because now I'm going to consider the narrative arc based on my own choices with more depth. And so for a practical application here, you try putting these cards in as a personal inquiry. What am I bound by? What needs to collapse? What hope is available to me now? And experiment with different correspondences to see which deepens the reading in the moment. Meeting you where you are now. Because tarot must meet you where you are now. Astrology must meet you where you are now. Numerology, runes, etc., they must meet you in the now, not in the perfect past, the complicated past, or the perfect future, okay? So, let's move on and let's see, how do we want to work with these crises cards? And so we're going to look for something, practical method for evolving the practice. So, step 1, acknowledge your emotional relationship to the card. Do you fear the devil? Dread the tower, cling to the star? Your feeling response will reveal much about the correspondences that might serve you best. Okay? Step 2, research the card's history beyond Golden Dawn. So look at the Marseille imagery, the tower as a maison Dieu, that's God's house, pre-Golden Dawn associations, modern psychological interpretations, and how different cultures read crises and renewal, particularly the culture of your lineage. Okay. Step 3, test alternatives in real time. So when crises arrives, personal or collective, pull these cards with different correspondences in mind and see which illuminates the situation more clearly. Step 4, build a crisis cosmology. So develop your own system for reading upheaval, collapse, and regeneration. This becomes essential for navigating our time of multiple overlapping crises. Next, emphasize. So here's the thing. The Golden Dawn is brilliant, but they were Victorian Englishmen interpreting cards through empire, patriarchy, and a specific occult lineage. You are living now in this body, in this crisis, and so your correspondences should reflect that. We do not dishonor the Golden Dawn and what they have given us. We simply build upon it and ask questions that are relative to our own lived life experiences right now in the 21st century. Okay? And so, as usual, we have some takeaways, and here they are. So the devil, the tower, and the star cards are not just personal psychological cards. They are political, collective, apocalyptic cards that demand we think critically about power, collapse, and hope. And updating their correspondences is an act of intellectual, mystical, and spiritual sovereignty. So, choose one of these 3 cards and spend the week working with an alternative correspondence. Journal, meditate, pull in readings, put it on your altar. Notice what shifts when you read the devil as Pluto, the tower is Uranus, the star is Neptune, or whatever correspondences you choose in the moment that seem to work, okay? And so the next episode is episode 160, where we will be discussing the moon and the sun, reclaiming the luminaries, questioning the binary, exploring correspondences that honor mystery, cyclical wisdom, and radiant truth. And one last thing, you can once again find us on Pinterest and Instagram, and those links will be in the show notes. There is a free and paid newsletter, 500 plus posts, and 80 episodes of a podcast in behind that, free and paid. There are about 1 to 2 posts per month, probably more, and that link is behind in the show notes as well. And thank you very much for listening. Appreciate you. And one last thing, if you could like, subscribe, share, that would be crucial to helping this podcast continuing in its continuing journey to bring information and to thrive. So thank you very much, and peace, love, and rebellion.